For staying with us, we want to bring you one other story before we get into our sports news this evening, where Deputy President William Ruto will in the next 2 weeks launch his campaign manifesto in a move expected to counter his main rival, former Prime Minister Raila Odinga's campaign pledges under the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition party manifesto. But how has been the uptake of the Odinga campaign pledges, and what key areas are expected to feature in Ruto's June 30th manifesto launch? Moremi Mwangi explains on this week's House of Cards.
When veteran war industrialist and presidential advisor Bernard Baruch cautioned Americans to vote for the man who promised the least as he would be the least disappointing, his was easily a warning to the citizens then that the massive public outcry for reconstruction of the country after the First World War ought not have deluded the electorate to give a through pass to candidates that promised them heaven. Yet in the wake of the Kenyan August 9th general election, preceded by the yet-to-be fully eradicated COVID-19 economic shockwaves, a troubled national economy and ballooning public debt, the promises to Kenyans from top presidential contenders Deputy President William Ruto and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga have just been as lofty.
Private sector is the answer. We need to have a growing and vibrant private sector. That is when this country is going to grow.
They are the agents of state capture, and we must free this country.
Odinga has already unveiled his August 9th manifesto under the banner of the Inawezekana 10-point agenda that features, among other areas, his Babacare Universal Health Program, a pledge for administrative continuity of his predecessor's development agenda, and the Inua Jamii Social Welfare Program, targeting some 2 million poor households. The former Prime Minister's troops, led by his running mate NARC Kenya leader Martha Karua, already on the ground to convince the electorate that his promises are simple and realistic, and enough reason to entrust his government the country's leadership for the next 5 years.
Baba's basket has something for everybody, for the youth, for women, for children, for the men, for differently abled, for the marginalized. It's all there. But for the youth, I'll remind them, I'm a mother to youth. So I'm your mother, and in this government, there'll be your mother.
If you ask me, he's still on the drawing board. He came up with 6,000 shillings. He didn't match bottom up. He came up with some arrangement at the bottom, I can't remember what. And now that you are calling informal sector, he will still to craft a lot more to be able to match the bottom up.
In Baba's basket, he has already outlined what is there for the youth. Jobs, industry will bring jobs. Agribusiness will bring jobs. Governance will bring jobs, because money that would have been idle in people's pockets to make them millionaires will be invested in enterprises that will make jobs for the people.
In 2 weeks, Ruto will formally unveil his campaign pledges, widely expected to counter Odinga's 10-point agenda. Notable areas to feature in the Ruto June 30th manifesto are what he calls the county charters, detailing his county-to-county pledges for key development projects, as well as investment in select sectors to enhance regional economies under the 47 counties. Also expected to dominate his campaign manifesto is Ruto's pledge to actualize what he calls the bottom-up economic model by, among other proposals, pumping 50 billion shillings every year to finance small, micro and medium enterprises as an incentive to revitalize small businesses. Ruto's campaign is also expected to map out the country into regions, each with unique promises to deliver if elected president, such as resolving the coastal land question, revamp of key industrial installations in Western Kenya, as well as enhancing equitable distribution of national development projects to uplift the economic fortunes of the marginalized regions. On both the Ruto and Odinga camps, however, strategists agree on the need and urgency to tame the ballooning public debt,
it should be an offense to overproject. Because you know the growth in the economy, even if you manipulate the figures, it's not right to overproject. Because then you are giving burden, and there's always the carryover from one financial year to another.
Behind our minds, we are aware that the next government which is likely to come might have their own manifesto with the different priorities from the current government. Now, in a situation, the law provides for that, and that's why we have supplemented the budget.
You see, the whole idea of completing pending bills was always to make sure that you budget appropriately, so that you live within your means and you don't engage too many other projects before you have resolved the ones that you had started previously.
The national funds properly used, direct injection on the national economy, and with the right policies as we promised in Azimio, and the biggest being fighting corruption and ensuring good governance, this economy will fly and we will all feel the effect. Now the economy is growing, but in a few pockets.
Well, let's say the coming 55 days before the end of the official campaign period means a great deal for the Ruto and Odinga camps as the electorate continue decoding their campaign pledges ahead of the August 9th polls. Murumi Mwangi, KTN News.
All right, and it's on that note that we wrap up